Hi there, and welcome to week 5 of our English 104 online class. It's hard to believe, but after this week, we're about 1/3 of the way through the semester, and we continue to pick up a little bit of steam and keep building your collection of work that you're creating in order to help you have a lot of material for your portfolio at the end of the semester. We'll be talking about the portfolio more in depth later in a few weeks, but just know that the essays you're working on now, the analytical responses, all the work that you're doing now is opportunity for you to use it in your portfolio at the end of the semester. And we'll be talking more about making selections from the work that you're doing, what that looks like in a few weeks once we're a little bit more than midway through the semester. So I hope to answer those questions soon. First thing I wanted to point out is that when you come to the Moodle site today, there might be a few different things. And one of them is that I changed the format of the class a little bit. There's a new option that's available on Moodle, which was to create toggles for the weeks. So now you don't have to scroll all the way down in order to find the week that we're on. And I'm thinking that when you arrive, it should include the week that we're currently on. I have to go in and I have to highlight what the current week is, and we're in week 5 right now. So I'm hoping that when you come to Moodle, it looks something like this, okay, with just week 5 open. If not, if you have to do it, you can always go ahead and you'll see these options right at the top above the different weeks that are listed. You can close all of the options, which just makes it look like this for the ones that are open to you. You can open all the options, so this gets back to looking like our site used to look, okay, with everything all in a row. And of course you can close, and then you can just click on, since we're here in week 5, you can just click on the week that you want. So that sort of says it's a toggle, meaning it will open and close that week. So this way you don't have to scroll all the way down. It gets a little bit annoying as the semester goes on and our stuff gets closer and further down to the end of the page. But this will allow you to move through and still have access to all the weeks of information that you need. Okay. First off, let me go ahead and look back at last week a little bit and see what's going on. I had conferences with many of you last week for essay number 1 and continuing those this week. Had a few glitches with the virtual conferencing system. Actually, some people, it worked perfectly fine for it, and others were struggling a little bit. I'm going to make some resources available for you if you are wanting to do virtual conferences. I mean, it should work really well, and with the folks that I did meet with, it was perfectly fine. But a couple people had a hard time connecting or getting to the room. And I'm going to post some resources this week that the IT folks are helping me work out. And also, I was told that if you're having a hard time connecting to the Blackboard Collaborate site with my virtual office link, you can go visit the folks up in Moodle support in the instead of the help desk area, but Moodle support is actually up on the 3rd floor of the library, and they'd be happy to help you log in, see if you can access the room, even if you want to take your laptop or use their computer there. But in any case, if you are planning a virtual conference with me, please do try to go ahead and enter by clicking on here. There's some software for you to download, some platform for you to open. And when you do that, you should then eventually get to something that looks a little bit like this. Okay, I think you can see this on my screen right now. It won't say Sue here because I won't be in there at the very time that you're going, but this is, when you hit this, you'll know that you actually are in the office. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. But try to get that done in advance if you're planning to meet with me, just to make sure that your system is set up appropriately to deal with that. Last week we also had the first of our response groups, and I'll be reading through and scoring those today. I went through, made sure groups were filled, moved some people around to make sure you had enough people to give you feedback, and you should be in groups of 4 and got feedback from those folks. Your goal, of course, this week is to use the feedback from them, from our conference if we've already met, and by Thursday, we're going to have another response group, and you'll be in groups with the same people that you were this week. And this time you're going to share a complete draft of your essay, or a revised draft if you already submitted a draft the first week. Okay, so continue working on that as we go along. The other things are, of course, ongoing. Making sure that you're doing the begin your research last week, and it's over now. Yesterday was the last day to add research to the research collections for the pop culture. We're actually moving into a new topic this week, and that's sort of what I want to talk about now. You are, of course, continuing to work on this essay, and you'll be posting your essay on pop culture this week. But as far as content, reading, other discussion in the class, beginning today, we're moving forward with the next unit of study, which is food and society. Okay, so from pop culture to food and society. And the content of our Moodle site reflects that now. And you'll see that this week you're going to begin doing some of that reading about the topic of food and society. And also some continued reading from They Say, I Say this week on and yet and as a result. Okay, so this is actually talking about distinguishing your ideas from other people's ideas in your writing. So how to present information from other people and then make your voice clear and strong in things as well. Okay, so those are the tactics that we're working with this week. I'd also like you to start thinking about food and society, conduct some research on topics that you are interested in the subject area of food. I mean, it's a pretty big, wide open category. I have narrowed things you'll see in the research collections to some basic topics based on past experiences in class, fast and junk food, food and health, food choices, restrictions, trends, okay, food and culture and society, food and gender, and the food industry. And some of these overlap a little bit, so you'll have to decide where yours most logically fits in. Okay, but on the whole, I'm hoping that there'll be something that will define what it is that you're finding in your research within those categories. I'd also suggest that for the next 3 weeks or so, you start paying more attention to your food choices, observations you make about the food choices or the food availability, the options around you, whether it be at grocery stores, restaurants, okay? And in some ways, you may want to begin keeping a food diary, okay? What do you eat? When do you eat it? Okay, where do you eat? In order to sort of build a better awareness of the role that food plays in your life and how that connects to that of others around us. And I think that this will be helpful in sort of engaging in the I say part of the equation with the things that we're reading about from others. Okay, so, and you can figure out how you want to maintain that. Do you want to write it down in a handwritten journal? Do you want to keep it as a Google Doc? Okay, exactly what it is. You want to just put it in your phone. It's just for you to have access to it to add to the conversation. So it doesn't have to be shared immediately, although you will be asked to include some of these ideas in your analytical responses, in Writer's Toolbox activities, okay, as we go along. But let's go ahead and look at what else is happening this week. As I said, some of you are still continuing with your conferences with me, and I'll be concluding the first round of Essay 1 conferences this week. The next 2 weeks, week 6 and 7, we're sort of in between cycles before I'll start meeting with people for essay number 2. And so I have some times available for you to schedule one of 2 types of conference. One might be a makeup conference. If you scheduled a conference and didn't make it for whatever reason, you have this chance to attend a conference in week 6. Okay, it has to be completed by the end of week 6. And if you had a conference with me but would like to make for a revision conference, then you can meet with me in either week 6 or week 7. But the format for signing up, the options are down here. For some reason, this link isn't lighting up like it usually does for the time and date. But please, go ahead and click on that to sign up, and also remember to identify what type of format. Whether you'd like to meet in my office face-to-face, whether you'd like to meet in my virtual office through Moodle, or whether you'd like to do a Google Docs conference. And all that information, of course, is available to remind you in the conference's overview. But please do visit this anytime now through Sunday to schedule another appointment with me if you would like to. The other things this week are a writer's toolbox, and I've called it an activity-ish reflection, okay? And there's a reason for that. Instead of making you sort of do something, usually I'd do an activity this week, and you would post, and then you would follow up and respond to somebody, to people within your group. But you're already having a lot of that going on, and I want you to focus on your completion of your Essay 1 draft this week and not have 2 deadlines, a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then a Thursday and a Sunday deadline. So this week it's just going to be a single posting, with Tuesday being the deadline, so tomorrow, from the day that I'm actually recording this video. And what I would like you to do is you're going to be applying the information that you get from They Say, I Say, Chapter 8, working with the transitions, pointing words, repetition of key ideas, and repetition with a difference is what the book calls it. So saying something, but with a little, again, but with a little bit of a twist, right? And this is a way to help people work through your writing, okay? Read what you're doing, move smoothly through it, sort of as like the mental cues that we need in order to process information. And so this is one thing that's really helpful for revision. What I'd like you to do is actually apply it to Essay number 1. Okay, so for this I'm asking that you include at least the first 3 paragraphs of Essay number 1. Okay, if you want to, you can include more. But for this, you're going to have to do that. And then you're doing an analysis, and it's all explained here, where you're going to go through and you're going to identify the 4 strategies from Chapter 8 that you've already used and highlight those things, identify, oh, this is a pointing word, this is a transition, and then you're going to look and you're going to see if you have sort of underplayed that. Do you need to include more of these? And I'd like you to use each of these 4 strategies at least once within that period, but I would suspect there might be a few more than those for particular things, maybe the transitions in particular. And so then I'd like you to add some more of those things to those 3 or more paragraphs, and then again highlight and label those. So you're going to be analyzing your use of these connecting types of words and phrases within your work. What type of cues do you give to people to guide them through here? And then you're going to share what you found in your team links, okay, again by color here, and you'll just post that. Once you've posted it, you'll be able to see what other people have posted and how they've used those things. I encourage you to go back and look at that and see how people use certain things effectively, maybe particularly if you had a hard time using repetition with a difference. Look and see how other people used repetition with a difference to get a good idea of how that works. If you want to, you could comment and return to people, but it's not necessary. It's just sort of reading through and sort of looking and seeing how other people have succeeded or achieved these types of things within there. So that's sort of what we're working with the Toolbox activity this week. You won't need to, you won't need to actually go back and do a follow-up like you usually would. And you'll see that's why there's just a single date of Tuesday. You will need to do the post survey. And actually, I just realized that there's a date. I have 9/4. It's supposed to be 9/24. Okay. This is the post survey for Begin Your Research at HSU. And this is really something you should be taking if you've been doing the chapters of Begin Your Research all along. Okay, you did a pre-survey in week 1, and then weeks 2, 3, 4. There have been chapters from Begin Your Research to do that. And then this is actually developed to see what you've learned or how much you've accomplished or gained the knowledge between those 2 points. Okay, so taking the post survey without doing any of the things before it isn't going to be of help to you. So please make sure you've done the pre-survey and the different chapters prior to taking this. And I'm actually, I think, going to extend the deadline. I mean, I have it for tomorrow, but to allow folks who would like to do the post survey a little bit later, I'll actually extend that to the 29th as well. But there's a lot due on the 29th, so I'm sort of warning you that you might want to get it done sooner rather than later in that respect. The main activity for you this week is the Essay 1 draft and revision, okay, workshop. You'll see I already have the links here for people to post, and this is your full essay, okay, and these are people whose names you'll be in the same groups, generally speaking. I did a little bit of shifting to balance out some groups as needed, but these are the same groups that you were in last time. If you have an approved topic proposal but didn't participate in last week's group, whether you were ineligible or you just didn't post by the deadline, you've also been put into a group. Okay, so everybody should be here. So please check this out, and if you don't have a group and you think you should be assigned to a group, then please get in touch with me to let me know. Okay, I want to make sure everybody's ready to participate in response groups this week. Please do remember, you need to look at two different things. Response group forums overview. This basically explains the basic procedures for what's expected of you, but then within this, you're going to also see a link, and this is really important, to composing response group letters. It's not just expected. This is different from the weekly forums where you just respond with 100 words or a few things here or there. You need to go into depth and give people some significant feedback on their essays. I expect multiple paragraphs, one for each main topic of feedback that you're giving, and the letters have to be at least 300 words. Okay, for the draft or outline, it was just 150, okay, this last week. But these should be 300-word letters to the person providing them feedback. Okay, so really providing some good analysis. I've included a number of different topics or areas for you to pay attention to. And I've also, of course, when you post your essay, you're supposed to, at the top of it, include what type of help do you want. Okay, what's the most important thing to you at this point in time in getting feedback from folks. And you might go ahead and look at this, drafting the letter thing, before you post your essay to see, are some of these topics the ones that you want help with. Okay, and if they are, you can include those. Oh, I really want help with organization and integrating research. Okay, and that can be sort of your topic. But either way, if the person includes the questions at the top and you've answered those and you feel like if you haven't got the 300 words or you're still trying to struggle with what to say to the person, look at these ideas for providing feedback and see, if there's other things that you can identify that could use help. The other thing to think about is sometimes people are uncomfortable making constructive criticisms or offering ideas for revision. Okay, but that's what people really want from you at this point in the game. Okay, it's important to folks. The biggest complaint that I get from people in response groups isn't that people were too critical or provided too much revision feedback. It's always the opposite. I really didn't get enough from my group in that. So while it's important that you comment on positive things to begin with in people's essay, always remember to identify the things people have done well so they can repeat those skills. But also really try to think about what would improve this. As the reader, what did you want that you didn't necessarily get? And I think that the thing to consider is if you are uncomfortable making specific suggestions, one thing you can always consider is asking questions. Okay, is there something more you wanted to know about? Right? Was there something that the person just touched on but you felt was important and you wanted to know, have more information about that? Was something unclear and you want to ask a question to clarify that? Okay, so always think about that possibility. If you're less comfortable giving constructive criticism and making suggestions for revision, then ask a lot of questions and explain why you didn't quite understand this or what it is you'd like to know more about within this topic. Okay, because folks really do want your feedback and your assistance on this. They'll get feedback from me in conferences, of course, but you're a reader, just like I'm a reader, and what you have to say is important and valid as far as what people are writing about. So those are response groups and response group letters this week. So please take a look at those handouts before you post it. It happens all the time that people sort of get the analytical response and the response group follow-ups confused. Okay, so it's important that you recognize that they're two different tasks and activities, and the response groups require a little bit more of you, a little bit more analysis in order to be really helpful to the people who are in your group. Okay. The other things are just sort of part of our switchover from topic to topic. There is still the assignment amnesty, okay, all assignments from weeks 1 through 3 that I've listed within that assignment. And again, it describes exactly what it is that you need to do to make up any of these assignments that are at the top here. Okay, so please take a look at these and complete them. Also, once you have done all the makeup work that you're going to do, okay, so it might be that you have, 3 or 4 things you're going to do. Don't email me after every single thing. Once you've completed all, send me an email that tells me what it is that you've made up. Okay, And please be patient. I'm not going to be going in and looking at all these and scoring them until after this week's deadline. So early next week is when these things should change in your grade book, or you'll be hearing from me with your grade updates. Okay, but please do email me to let me know when you've made things up, because it's a lot of stuff for me to sort through with 3 classes of people, with all the different assignments that can happen, and it will help me draw attention to what it is that you worked on or what you're doing. The other thing then, as I was talking about moving over from one topic, this week you're going to conduct a pop culture research collection self-assessment. And it's a Google form here that you'll have to click on. And it's pretty simple. It should take you a few minutes. In this top box, you're going to put the MLA Works cited entries. And you've already got those on the spreadsheets, right? So go through, copy and paste all the ones that you've done. And you can actually, pull up separate things, go back here and pull up the spreadsheet at the same time. Put the entries that you've included here. You're going to do a ranking here of how successful you think you were in meeting the guidelines. Okay, and this is sort of an important thing to consider. And then you're going to explain that in this box here. Okay, I talked about the guidelines, and indeed those are also available for you in up here in the major assignments, research collection and curation overview. And you're going to be looking at this top section here, criteria for evaluation of research collections. So when I talked about how thorough were you, how credible, okay, this is what you're explaining within the context of that. So please read this. This time around, you're only going to be evaluating your collection. Next time around, you're going to be doing curating, okay, and curating is actually looking at what other people have written or have added to it and adding some more of your own ideas to that. Okay, and that's something that you can start with this week. So it is important for you to come back here and take a look at the research curation, because for Unit 2, Food and Society, you're both going to have to collect and curate these collections that we're creating here. So please take a look and review that. And it is in the preparation section for you to do that. The next thing then is for you to start with the Food and Society research collections. And that, I think, is, it's one of my favorite topics, actually. I love to eat, and as a lot of us do. But also I think there's a lot of interesting things that I hadn't really considered about the role that food plays in our culture and in our lives until we started doing this unit in this class. And I think it's really pretty interesting. I think you will too. That's it for the week, though. As always with these videos, please feel free to come back and visit if you need some clarification. And if you feel like I haven't answered something that you have a question about, send me an email, post to our collaborative class Q&A at the top of our Moodle site. And just have a great week. Let me know how I can help. Bye now.